If you regularly follow my channel, you know that recently I bought my first ever, higher end 1911. And I went with a Nighthawk Custom 1911. Now, a lot of people have asked me what made me decide to go with the Nighthawk over the other brands that are pretty much in that same category. You know, the Ed Browns, the Wilson Combat, the Les Baer, etc. Well, when I made the decision to go with Nighthawk, it wasn't the easiest decision in the world, but when I got right down to it, it was for some pretty simple reasons. I think that when you look at each manufacturer, they each have their little niche, their own specialty. And it really becomes evident when you look at like the most popular gun from each manufacturer or the most known gun from each manufacturer. For instance, if you look at the Ed Brown guns and you look at the Cobra Carry, the Cobra Carry is a very elegant gun. It's just refinement personified. It's a great functioning 1911, but they go that extra step to just make it look like something you would expect somebody to carry while they were wearing a three-piece suit. If you were to think of the Cobra Carry in terms of, say, an automobile, and you were to wonder, well, what kind of automobile would the Cobra Carry be? The kind of person that's attracted to like the Executive Carry or the Cobra Carry from Ed Brown, they would probably drive an E-Class Mercedes. I would not be the least bit surprised to see on Instagram a picture of an Ed Brown 1911 sitting on the dashboard or the center console of an E-Class Mercedes. In fact, I've seen it several times. So I think of the Ed Browns as a very refined gun, maybe a little too refined for me. Now, if you look at Wilson Combat, their guns are a little more duty driven. They're a little more tactical. It's like Wilson Combat actually has the soldier, the operator in mind when they designed their 1911s. When you look at their gun, they're probably most known for the CQB, that actually stands for Close Quarters Battle. It's more of a battle gun. Like I said, more tactical, more duty driven. If you were to think of this gun as a vehicle, or what kind of vehicle you would think someone that would own one of these guns would drive, well, you'd think they have quite a few tattoos for one, and you wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see them step out of something like, a tricked out Jeep Rubicon, something that can really shine when it's off the pavement, when it's not going to the mall, when it's not, just going on a casual drive, when it's out to get some work done. That's why I think that gun would kind of be like a tricked out Jeep. I drive a Jeep myself, but I don't drive a real tricked out one because I don't really go off-road that much. So I thought, the Wilsons might be just a little bit too tactical for me. Now we come to Les Baer. And I'll say right off the bat, I love Les Baer pistols. But one thing about Les Baer pistols, if you look at them, they're a little more raw. They're a little simpler. They're not quite as refined or as tactical as the two guns I mentioned before. When you hold a Les Baer gun, you know that the people who made that gun, what they cared about is that gun is a machine. A fine-tuned, yet still kind of raw and basic machine. And if you thought about how that translates over to cars, what kind of car would a Les Baer be, and what kind of car would a person who owned a Les Baer really be attracted to, I kind of think that the Les Baer would lend itself to being something, like I said, simple and raw, like an American muscle car. Something like the Dodge Challenger if you want to look at something on the modern market. Something that's not super refined, but it still has a simplistic beauty. The Challenger isn't about refinement. It isn't about feeling like you're floating on a cloud. It isn't about silent travel. It's about being a little more raw, a little more basic. You feel the road when you drive it. You hear the engine when you push down on the gas pedal. It's more of a visceral experience. I think the Les Baer is kind of like that. And the kind of person that would appreciate the Les Baer for the machine it is would also appreciate something like a Challenger for the machine it is. So you might ask now, well, where does the Nighthawk come into this? Well, the Nighthawk is kind of a gun that floats between all three of those niches. It has what I like about all three guns put into one gun. It's kind of elegant. I mean, not as elegant as the Ed Browns, but it's definitely a little more polished than some of the more basic guns or the more tactical guns like the Wilson Combat. Although it does kind of have more of a combat feel to it when you look at features like magwells and front serrations and skeletonized hammers. I mean, the gun does have a little bit of a tactical flair to it, but it's not quite as tactical or duty-driven as the Wilson Combat. And as far as comparing it to the Les Baer, it's not as simple as the Les Baer, it's not as raw, but it still retains a lot of those elements. It still has a lot of stainless steel. It has, a simple design, not a lot of frill to it. It's just a good basic 1911 that's been made pretty tactical and pretty elegant at the same time. So it's kind of like it's in the middle of all three guns. So now you might ask yourself, well, what kind of car would the Nighthawk be, since we're using the car analogy? Well, since you're taking a little bit of elegance from the Ed Brown, you're taking a little bit of that duty-driven ruggedness from the Wilson Combat, and you're still taking a little bit of that raw, powerful feeling of the Les Baer. Well, what I think you would come up with if you did the same from all three cars, you would end up with a Land Rover Sport. The Land Rover Sport is still a very elegant car. Maybe not so much as an E-Series, but still a very refined and elegant car. And the Range Rover might not be tackling as many boulders as the Rubicon, but it's still quite a capable off-road vehicle. It's a good four-wheel drive vehicle. And it may not be as raw and powerful as the Challenger, but when you lift that hood up, there's a V8 turbocharged engine under there cranking out some sound and some power. So it's kind of like it's the best of all worlds. And that's why I went with the Nighthawk. Like I said, it doesn't equal any of those other three guns in their own personal niche, but it kind of brings the best of all those niches into one gun. That's why I chose the Nighthawk, and that's why I'm happy I did.
Oops.
Why don't you go ahead?
It's a lady at 46 South Road. 46 South Road.
Greenfield. Station 1 call, retone that please. 10-4. Captain 4 will be going to that location also. This is 1-9, is that correct?